flinch. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL 92.5 FM with Aaron Williams. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us. A Wednesday that finds us 24 hours away from the official NFL schedule release. We'll have a big reaction show to that tomorrow night. We'll be joined by a lot of folks here on 1010XL. Mike Dempsey, Dan Hicken, Frank Frangie, Rick Ballou. We'll make it kind of a schedule release party, if you will, here on Hacker After Dark tomorrow evening. Of course, we already know the international games for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Boy, I got some thoughts on that coming up in a moment. Tony Baselli, the EVP of Football Operations, was on Jaguars earlier today on 1010XL with Mike and Tony, and we'll let you hear some of his thoughts as well. In fact, one of those thoughts is coming up very quickly, because that's going to lead into our big deal of the night. I mentioned this to Rick Ballou just a moment ago during the 2-minute drill there. Boy, Florida is absolutely putting on a full court press when it comes to John Summerall and getting him out there in the state. Every news station in Orlando and here in Jacksonville and Tampa, I mean, every podcast you can possibly imagine, he's going on. We've had him here on 1010XL already numerous times. He's doing a lot of sports radio around the state. He's doing regional stuff. He's doing national stuff. John Summerall, Florida is getting him out there, man, and it's working. It's picking up traction. The excitement, the recruiting, things that are going on, it's impressive, quite frankly, what's going on. So we'll certainly talk about that. In fact, John Summerall did the rounds here in Jacksonville with a lot of the news stations and some podcasters, and my buddy David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast had John Summerall yesterday, and we're going to have David Waters on with us here on Hacker After Dark coming up in about 15 minutes or so to talk Gator recruiting, to talk about John Summerall and the overall state of the Florida football program. That conversation is about 15 minutes away. We will also continue our tour of the AFC South. Last night, we made a stop in Nashville. Later this week, we will go out to Houston. Tonight, it's about the Indianapolis Colts. Derek Schultz of the Locked On Colts podcast will join us to talk about what has been a very interesting offseason to this point in Indianapolis. The retainment of Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, although some fixtures in Indy from Michael Pittman Jr., Kenny Moore, Zaire Franklin, Braden Smith, Kwity Paye, all no longer Indianapolis Colts. So we'll talk about where the Colts are heading into 2026. What is the future of Anthony Richardson as well? Derek Schultz of the Locked On Colts podcast will join us coming up towards the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us on a Wednesday evening here on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Aaron Williams, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
No big deal. It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
All right, before I really get into this, I want to let you hear from Tony Baselli. The EVP of Football Operations was on with Mike Dempsey earlier today on Jaguars Today, and we're going to play the cut that he had talking about, do the Jaguars have any say in who they play in London? And that's where I want to begin, because obviously the two international games were announced earlier today. Week 5 against Philadelphia, Week 6 against Houston. Both of those games would have been in Jacksonville, obviously with the stadium under renovations. only at half capacity. They're going to have 2 home games, quote-unquote home games in London. And the NFL chose Philadelphia and Houston. Before I really dive into this, here's Tony Baselli earlier today on Jaguars Today here on 1010XL talking about how much say the Jaguars have in who they play in London, England.
The league is great. We work together. We can make requests. We do have some ability to give our opinion on scheduling. At the end of the day, the league's going to do what's best for us, but also the entire NFL. They are great partners. Mike North and his team do an outstanding job of working with us. I don't want to get into the specifics of how much we can protect, can't protect, and all that, but I'll just say this. We do have a say. We do get to give input, but at the end of the day, the league has 32 teams. We're one of 32 that they have to consider. And I think what is lost a lot of times, I know from me it was lost until I got in this role, is you're not only thinking about 32 teams, you're thinking about 32 stadiums, cities, events, logistics, all the different things that go into a venue in a city. Some of these venues have 2 teams, LA and New York. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. Now you put our construction on top of it. When we can get in, we can't really play preseason game 1, so we're asking for help there. We need some time during the season to make sure we get construction in. So there's so many things that go into it. It's not as easy as like, hey, can we just play non-division games in London?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be – it's never that straightforward. So we have input, but it's a group effort. Business, football, myself, Mark Lamping, Liam, Chad Johnson, James, all of us work together in this process and work with the league.
All right. The thoughts of Tony Baselli, the EVP of Football Operations, earlier today here on 1010XL with Mike and Tony on Jaguars Today. You look at the home schedule, right? The slate of home games here in Jacksonville, with the knowledge that 2 of these were going to be moved to London. That's just what it was. Because remember, originally they were not going to play in Jacksonville in 2026. They were going to be gone for 2 years. Remember that? At the very beginning of all this, the thought was they were going to be gone for 2 years while the stadium was under construction and being built. People took issue with that. So the Jaguars, accommodating the fans here, have found a way to have a majority of their games, limited capacity, here in 2026, when originally they were not going to play here in 2026. So you have to take that into account before you really start complaining. So that's why I'm mentioning it before I start complaining. And then obviously in 2027, they're going to be in Orlando and they will not play in Jacksonville until August of 2028. So the home games that were scheduled to be here this year, obviously the 3 division games, Houston, Indy, Tennessee, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, New England, Washington, and Philadelphia. All right. You move Philadelphia over there to London. I don't like it, but I understand it. That's going to be a marquee matchup. 2 playoff teams from last year. Jalen Hurts on one side, Trevor Lawrence on the other. Going to be a good game. That's a sellable game. I think I saw where Philadelphia hasn't been featured on the NFL Network in like 10 years or something crazy like that. So the NFL and the NFL Network's all fired up to get Philadelphia and Jacksonville. That's one where I don't like it, but I understand it. Okay, you lose the Philadelphia game. The Houston thing bothers me. And the Houston thing should bother you too. That's ridiculous. Of all the home games this year that would have taken place in Jacksonville, Houston, Indy, Tennessee, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, New England, Philadelphia, Washington, the Houston game is by far and away the most important. It's not even close. I mean, the Texans and the Jaguars were decided by 1 game last year for the division. 1 game. Both of them ended the regular season on 8-game or more winning streaks. You think about the history with Azeez Al-Shire and the rivalry and everything that goes into Texans-Jaguars. And that's the game they moved to London? You couldn't have taken Cleveland or Indianapolis or Tennessee. You already took Philadelphia, which, okay, we'll eat that one. That's fine. But then you took Houston, the most important game of the year at home for Jacksonville. A game that quite literally might decide the division when all is said and done is now going to be played at a neutral site for Jacksonville's home venue. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Now, look, if there's ever a year where you don't like it and you just say, you know what, man, it is what it is, it would probably be this year because you're only going to have 42,000 people in the stadium anyway. You're going to be playing in essentially a construction zone, but keep in mind, the idea originally was to not play here for 2 years. Fans didn't like that, so the Jaguars have had to be accommodating, which they have been, very much so. The Jaguars have been great in figuring out a way to be able to play a majority of their games here in 2026, which I applaud them for that, because have you seen the stadium recently? Have you driven downtown recently? To think they're going to play an NFL game in that thing in 4 months with the piles of dirt and rubble and cranes and the constant work going on every day with hundreds of people down there full time every day working on the stadium of the future. The idea that they're actually going to play 8 NFL games in that thing this year, 2 in the preseason and 6 in the regular season, is pretty mind-boggling. So the Jaguars, tip of the cap to you guys for figuring out a way to not be gone for 2 years. But with that came some sacrifices, and Mark Lamping laid this out for us. The team president laid this out for us, a month or so ago? Month and a half? We knew there were going to be 2, quote, home games in London. This should not be a surprise to any of you. I saw some people complaining about it today. Well, then you obviously did not watch that press conference, listen to us on 1010XL, listen to anybody that covers the Jacksonville Jaguars, because we've known about that for over a month and a half, that it was going to be 2 home games. That's not a surprise. Again, they were not even going to play here in 2026. I'm very happy fans are going to have 6 regular season home games here, albeit in limited capacity. What my issue is the Houston game. Look, if you're the NFL, what are you doing? You already took Philadelphia, which, again, huge game, but I get it. That's a huge game internationally. That thing will be built up. NFL Network is fired up to have the Eagles back on after like 10 years or something they were talking about. Jaguars are marketable, obviously, over there. That's going to be a huge game. But you should not have taken Houston over there. That should be Cleveland, or that should be Tennessee, or that should be Indianapolis. That no way, no how, not in any atmosphere should it be Houston and Jacksonville over there. To take the Houston game away from Jacksonville, away from this stadium and this city and this fan base, and put it in Wembley is preposterous. I haven't heard a good excuse all day. I won't hear a good excuse for the rest of the week or the month or any time until that game is played in week 6, because there is not a good excuse for that. I don't care what they tell me. I don't care what the reasoning is. Taking Houston away from here and putting that in Wembley with the ramifications of that game. Everybody knows what's going to be on the line in week 6. Clearly the 2 favorites in the division, in the AFC South. 2 teams that both finished 12-5 or better last year. 2 teams that ended last regular season on 8-game or more winning streaks. 2 teams that are on an absolute collision course again in 2026. Jacksonville's got to go into Houston. And now Houston doesn't even have to come here they play the Jaguars at Wembley Stadium in London. I mean, that's crap. It is. That's ridiculous. We'll do a lot more of this tomorrow night. We started last night, but it is worth mentioning again how much the Jaguars are up against it this year. There's 17 games, guys, right? 17. Only 6 are going to be played in Jacksonville. That means 11 games are going to be played outside of Duval County. 2 in London and 9 in opposing NFL stadiums. So just simply do the math on that. If you go undefeated at home, which is not likely to happen, by the way, but let's say you do. Let's say you go undefeated at home. Well, that's 6 wins. What's it going to take to get in the playoffs? Minimum 10 in the AFC? Minimum. That means you have to win at least 4 games outside of Jacksonville to probably be in the conversation for a wild card spot. And that's assuming you win every home game. If you win 66% of your home games, which is pretty good, normally you would take 2/3, but in this instance, if you go 4-2 in your 6 home games, then you have to win like 5 or 6 minimum games outside of Jacksonville to be in the conversation for a wild card or a division title. I mean, that is what it is. It's already going to be hard enough. And you took the NFL did, not saying you, but the NFL decided to take the most important Jaguar home game, which is Houston. And again, it's not even close. It's the most important. And move it over to Wembley Stadium in London. I hate that. There is not a good enough reason that somebody can give to me as to why that happened. I don't care what they say. I don't care what the logic is. You were going to play 2 games over there. You already took Philadelphia. Fair enough. Why take Houston? Why could that not have been Cleveland? Why could that not have been Indianapolis? Why could that not have been Tennessee? Tennessee does not play an international game this year. You could say, well, Hacker, maybe some of these other teams have international games already. Well, maybe they do. I know Tennessee doesn't, because all the media in Nashville were talking today that they get 17 games stateside. All of their games are here in the United States of America. Why couldn't it be Tennessee going over there to play Jacksonville? And that way you get Houston here. That's what it should have been. If Tennessee's not even playing an international game, you send them over to play Jacksonville in a division game, but you give this city and this fan base the biggest game, the most important game of the year here at Everbank against the Houston Texans. I absolutely hate the fact that the Texans game is in London. I hate it. It's as fired up on a negative side as I've been about a London game in a long time. And it has very little to do with the Jaguars. I do believe this is probably more an NFL thing than the Jaguars. Because you cannot tell me Jacksonville raised their hand and called Roger Goodell and said, hey, commish, go ahead and take our most important home game and let's take it over to Wembley. Because I don't believe they probably did that. I mean, it's great that Pittsburgh's coming here. It's great that New England's coming here. Washington's coming here. I guess Cleveland's coming here. That's all wonderful. But if you were going to take a division game to Wembley, it should have been Tennessee. It should not have been Houston. I think the NFL gave the Jaguars a foul with that. Not happy about it in the slightest. Again, there's not a good enough reason that you can give to me why that Houston game got moved and why it's not Tennessee, when Tennessee does not have an international game scheduled. Schedule release for its entirety tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Boy, that ought to be something. I hope I don't get as fired up about tomorrow night as what I am about Houston going to London. I told you last night when those rumors were circulating, I told you last night I was going to be ticked. And it turns out those rumors were real. When we saw that at, 9 a.m. this morning, I've been mad about it ever since. Craziness that the NFL did that. And you know what? Maybe we'll be sitting here in 5 months or whenever it is, week 6. Yeah, it's 5 months, October. And maybe C.J. Stroud will have a high ankle or dare I say something else, or the Jaguars will have a rash of injuries, and maybe it won't be the head-on collision that we think it will be right now. Perhaps. Perhaps one of the teams won't live up to the billing, although I don't know how you could be not living up to the billing after 5 games. But maybe for whatever reason, rash of injuries, something, bad luck in this game might not be as important as it appears right now. And maybe at that point, I'll change my tune. But here we are on the 13th day of May, thinking about week 6, thinking about how vitally important on paper that Texans at Jaguars game is in the division. And the fact that that's the one the NFL took to London? No, sir. Major issues with that, but doesn't matter, right?
I think it would feel a lot better if the Jaguars get the victory in that.
No, I'm not going to. Well, I mean, but we won't know that till after the fact. I'm not going to feel better about it till after the fact. And I can tell you this. If that's 4-1 Jacksonville against 4-1 Houston, I'm going to be even more pissed than I am right now. Or if that's 4-1 Jacksonville against 3-2 Houston, and you can really put a damper on the Texans' division hopes with a win and a tiebreaker, and you have to play that game at Wembley instead of here, I'm going to be even more mad about it than I am right now. That's why I hope one of the teams, hopefully Houston, doesn't live up to the billing. Because if that is a key game in week 6, I am not going to be a happy camper about that. It should have been Tennessee. And there's nothing the NFL can say that'll convince me otherwise. It should have been Tennessee and not Houston. 904-641-1010. Hit me up on the text line. Designed by Lifetime Enclosures. What's your thoughts about the Texans game getting moved to London? Never mind the 2 home games. Again, we already knew that. I don't have an issue with that. Losing the Philadelphia game is what it is. You knew they were going to take one of the big ones. That's fine. The Houston thing is what ruffled my feathers. I'll keep it G-rated. Ruffled my feathers. I'll tell you what's not ruffling my feathers is the University of Florida and what they're doing with John Summerall. You want to talk about a PR blitz? John Summerall hit every TV station in Orlando, every TV station here in Jacksonville. He's been on with us on 1010XL numerous times. The guy's going on every podcast imaginable, local, regional, national. I mean, it is a full court press, a concerted effort by the Gators to get their new head coach out there. And you know what? It's working. There's excitement. Recruiting's going wonderfully. Will it work in September? Yet to be seen. I have no idea. But in the month of May, man, I think what Florida is doing, a complete 180, by the way, from what Florida State is doing. Mike Norvell might as well be hibernating. We don't ever see him. We see John Summerall all the time. In fact, he was on the Gators Breakdown podcast last night with my buddy David Waters. And we're going to talk to David next. Get his thoughts on where Florida football is, recruiting, John Summerall, who we talked to last evening. And that conversation's coming up next on a Wednesday night. Check that, a Wednesday night here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock. It's Hacker After Dark.
1010XL takes you inside the program director's office with Dan and Jeff.
The fun's over. Anybody messes this thing up is through.
The Drill.
Not only are you fired, your life is over.
Mornings on 1010XL.
Don't mess up.
Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice!
It's showtime.
That's right. The whole world loves Beetlejuice. It's a rowdy, rambunctious, rollicking good time. And a big, fantastical funhouse. We're raising the bar and occasionally the dead. You've never seen anything quite like Beetlejuice. May 12th through the 17th, Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets on sale at fscjartistseries.org.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees, about $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
We got a great show for you today.
Denny Thompson stars as the quarterback whisperer.
A big show.
He shares his insights Friday mornings on The Drill.
A king-size show.
Revved up by George Moore Chevrolet on 1010XL.
After attending a Saturday Bumps and Bruises clinic by Southeast orthopedic specialist, my son's hip and shoulder issues were diagnosed quickly, and he's back playing. As a busy family, we really appreciate their prompt attention.
I've been having knee problems for probably 6 months, and I had heard about Southeast Orthopedics on the radio, and I gave them a call. They got me right in. Dr. Kevin Murphy did it. It was painless, and it's been doing fantastic.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Imagine this, you've got the burgers ready in a backyard full of guests, and folks, that's a strong lineup, but a clogged drain on a holiday, that can change everything in a hurry. Before kickoff, make sure your plumbing is ready to go. Call Duck Duck Rooter. They've got experience, honest pricing, and a team you can count on. And right now, get your main sewer line cleaned, plus a camera inspection for just $129. Outside cleanout is required because the only thing you want overflowing this weekend is that cooler. So when you're stuck, call the Duck, 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Hey, Jacksonville, it's Fred Taylor. If you've been in an auto accident, you need a team who knows how to get you back on your feet and back to your life. At North Florida Medical Center, they don't just treat the injury, they treat the whole person, from physical therapy to pain management. North Florida Medical Center has a team of experts ready to help you heal and recover. I trust the team here at North Florida Medical Center, and you can too. So don't wait. Call North Florida Medical Center and get the care you deserve.
Longer days, warmer nights, and a backyard that brings everyone together. Spring and summer in Florida means pool days, backyard barbecues, and night swims under the stars. Pick it here. For nearly 50 years, Surfside Pools have been creating the backdrops for life's best memories. From weekly service and repairs to remodels, commercial maintenance, and new pool construction, Surfside does it all. Ready to float happy? SurfsidePools.net or call 904-246-2666. Surfside Pools. Summer starts here. License number CPC 044080.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. Boy, to say the Florida Gators are on a hot streak on the recruiting trail is probably an understatement. They are currently ranked in the top 5 of the 247.com football recruiting rankings. When was the last time that happened? They also have 3 offensive linemen already that are among the top 150 players in America. Let's talk about the job that John Summerall's doing, his staff, obviously, Phil Troutwine, and the general excitement around Florida football heading into 2026. David Waters is the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast, and he's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. David, how you doing?
Doing good, Hacker. Certainly a busy time, even though, spring practice coming on about a week, about a month ago, but Florida keeping us busy on the recruiting trail for sure.
They really are, and you do a great job following recruiting. I know you basically do a Gators breakdown after every commitment, it seems like. Boy, they haven't been this hot on the recruiting trail in a long, long time.
Yeah, Hacker, I think the last time I can remember even thing any close to this, and maybe even, trying to go back to some recent history, is maybe that big summer of 2023 run Billy Napier had, and the class ended up falling apart because, the season didn't go as planned. But, that's when I think Florida had reached the top 5 at some point in the summer of 2023 with a big recruiting run, but it just didn't stick. So, now this is the bump class. This is the first full class John Summerall's been able to kind of put together. And this is a class that, history shows goes a long way in trying to turn a program around, go a long way in trying to win a whole lot of football games, is that bump class when you can kind of, you get hired and you have to put together a class so fast, and in the transition class, that class can come or go. But it's that first full class that usually goes a long way in how successful a coach is, and it's a really, really good start for John Summerall there.
David, obviously quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, they sell the tickets, they get on the highlight reels, but an offense is only as good as the offensive line. And there are concerns about Florida's offensive line coming into 2026. Those are obviously a priority in the recruiting class of 2027, as Florida's already landed not one, not two, but three of the best offensive linemen in America.
Hacker, I think Phil Trotwine walked in that room and said, "Yeah, this is not going to get it done." A few transfers come in, two from Penn State, one from Georgia Tech, and some holdovers. But you might, at some point this season, can have a serviceable offensive line. But Phil Trotwine knows they need more than that in the long run. And I think it's a good indication of some alignment about where this thing needs to head and to get better. I mean, offensive line has been a sore spot, at least on the recruiting trail for the Gators and getting top talent. I mean, this run that they've went on and getting, three of at the best of their position, offensive linemen, and Maxwell Hiller, Peyton Miller, and now Elijah Hutchinson. I mean, it hasn't been done in almost 20 years when you look at, a group of offensive linemen that Florida's bringing in that can make a difference, at least if you want to go by some recruiting rankings. We'll see where it all turns out. But since then, it's just kind of getting, you've had hits here or there, but it's been mostly projects. Florida living in the, we'll get a maybe high upside 3-star, and we'll bring them in and develop them, and they'll be ready in 2-3 years down the road. Well, that doesn't seem like that's the mindset right here when Phil Trotwine walks in and uses his previous relationships that date back to Penn State. I mean, that's the biggest thing here. Heck, when you look at it, I mean, it's like offensive linemen from all around the country, in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, in Texas. Florida's not really a state known for great offensive line play historically, at least when you compare it to skill player talent. So Phil Trotwine using those relationships that he's had, and something he can share personally as well. I mean, he was the recruit from the Northeast, came down to Florida under Ron Zook and won a whole lot of ball games under Urban Meyer. After that, he made he made a national trip from the Northeast to come down to Florida and go win a whole lot of ball games. And they shared that experience with a lot of these recruits as well. So I just think it shows a big time alignment in Florida, knowing the area that needs the most help and getting on the same page. And, we'll see where they should end up signing. Of course, it's only May, but if it trends like this, a really, really good start and kind of just showing what needs to change in this program.
David Waters is the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. And David, you brought up a great point, one that I've been talking about. The idea that you can go to Pennsylvania, to Texas, to Virginia, and get some of the best offensive linemen out of those states. And people will say, well, why won't you stay close to Florida? Obviously, we know how great the high school football is, and that's true. But offensive line play in the state of Florida might be the one exception to that. There are good players, but if you want to get the cream of the crop, more times than not, you got to leave the state, which is what Florida did by going to Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia.
Yeah, sure, Hacker. I mean, if there's some top offensive linemen here or there in the coming years in the state, sure, you circle them and try and go get them. But of course, you're going to be dealing with Miami. I mean, Florida's been dealing with Miami in some of these battles as well, and Notre Dame and Texas A&M. But for in-state guys, you're going to be battling Miami and their recruiting history under Mario Cristobal at that position. So in-state guys might trend that way a little bit more, at least for recent history shows, and then being able to develop that group. But now, I mean, it's just the big thing of being able to use Phil Trotwine and that. I mean, it shows a great build of the relationship that he's had, that he's able to get guys that he already had relationships with. Those guys might have been ended up at Penn State, but being able to, if you're a high school recruit, trust the coach enough to where it doesn't matter. I mean, some of these guys today, they were not even considering Florida until Phil Trotwine came to Florida. They would not even visit Florida. Had very little communication with Florida, but he's been the linchpin. And then once they get on campus, they get a connection with John Summerall at the same time, and that's just kind of the final nail in the coffin to get some of these commits. And now you hope that can translate if Florida, the state of Florida at the high school level, has some guys, and now Phil Trotwine's in the state. He can build these same relationships that we see and now are paying off from guys he committed at Penn State the last couple of years.
How much of an indictment is, look, and not that, Dan Mullen and Billy Napier need any more of an indictment, but I've been told that Phil Troutwine had always had interest in coming back to Florida. Mullen hired his buddy to run the offensive line. Napier hired his buddy to run the offensive line. Summerall hires Troutwine. Now they're doing stuff on the recruiting trail in 4.5 months that they haven't done in 20 years. I mean, why didn't Mullen or Napier have the wherewithal or the foresight to do this in the first place?
Yeah, Mullen I can somewhat understand. It was still kind of very, in the infancy of Phil Trotwine's coaching tenure. Went at Boston College with Steve Adazio and then went to Penn State. Mullen brought John Hevesy, who also had a prior relationship at Florida, put together some good offensive lines at Mississippi State as well. So that one I could probably give a little more of a pass to, more so than Billy Napier. Of course, Billy Napier comes and he brings in Rob Sale, and there was somewhat of a background of development, but nothing that really stood out. But Billy Napier, decided to go that route. Then you hung your hat on the development of Osiris Torrance for a little while and said, okay, maybe there's a good start there. But Hacker, kind of go back to the previous point, it seemed like at least on the recruiting trail front, it was, all right, we're going to go get a lot of projects. And then, they had this mindset, we're going to have time to build this thing. There's not really a whole lot of sense of urgency. I think that was the biggest thing that doomed Billy Napier and the staff that he put together and the way it kind of transpired on the recruiting trail as well. I think offensive line is a perfect example of that. And they targeted big guys, don't get me wrong, but they didn't really end up with many of the big guys. Lost a lot of recruiting battles for offensive linemen to Miami. Just seemed like the way they decided to build a roster would not necessarily maybe spend the funds that they had to build that group up. Maybe could fall back on, well, we think we can recruit these guys. Let's go spend money somewhere else. And look, they got good players elsewhere, especially in skill spots, but could not translate it to offensive line recruiting. And I think it's just a different mindset now. So, Billy Napier, he's probably the one I would blame the most for not, for sure you could start with Rob Sale. And, one of my biggest complaints about Billy Napier was like I said, sense of urgency and not really being able to adapt fast enough. When it wasn't working out on the recruiting trail under Rob Sale so much, maybe make that move. But in the end, Hacker, it probably works out for the best. And I'm not so sure even Phil Trotwine was going to fix a lot of the issues that we saw time after time under Billy Napier.
David, as we start to wrap up, anybody knows that follows recruiting or college football that you need to have a footprint in South Florida on the recruiting trail, and Florida's obviously got that pretty quick with this staff. I believe of their 14 commitments, 4 of them are from Sarasota southward, including a 4-star quarterback, a 4-star corner, a big physical defensive lineman among them. Your thoughts on what Florida's doing in the South Florida area?
Yeah, certainly made their presence felt there. And Brandon Harris, I mean, it was a great get by John Summerall, getting somebody with that Harris last name that is so well known in the southern part of the state, and it just goes a long way. And I think that was a little bit of foresight in saying, hey, if we're going to make inroads there, let's really hire one of the best guys we can for building relationships. And look, I mean, this is John Summerall, a head coach that comes from Tulane, so not necessarily having that relationship himself. So good on him to see, hey, if we're going to recruit better down there, I got to bring somebody in who has a lot of connections. And Brandon Harris, I think, has went a long way in that and kind of building some trust with this Florida staff. And, I think some guys who didn't know John Summerall, that just kind of gives an instant in when you get somebody with that Harris last name in the state of Florida and all the connections that they have there. It gives, I think, some instant respect to this Florida staff. To me, Hacker, that's probably the biggest thing is making sure they knew who they were going to target target and hire for that role. And it don't matter if, he's the cornerbacks coach, but that name is so synonymous down there that you can, if you're a wide receiver, if you're a skilled player, if you're a quarterback, if you're any kind of player down there in South Florida, it just kind of gives you some instant recognition no matter what side of the ball you play on.
Final moments, David Waters, host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, it was, 8 months ago that South Florida came into the Swamp and beat the Gators, and that started an absolute spiral to a 4-8 season. And there was not a lot of excitement, not a lot of optimism. And then you lose out on Lane Kiffin. And let's be honest, a lot of people wanted Lane Kiffin that were Florida Gators supporters. And in comes this guy named John Sumrall, who was a group of 5 coach from Louisiana. And everybody thought, oh my goodness, they just hired Billy Napier 2.0. Look, wins and losses are all that matters. And we can't discuss that until September. So we got 4 months before we can even get to the wins and losses conversation. But the excitement that is back in this program 4.5 months into Summerall's tenure, from the retainment from the team last year to Buster Faulkner and the staff, you mentioned Troutwine Harris among them, to what they're doing in recruiting right now, having over 40,000 in the stands for the Orange and Blue game. Clearly, Sumrall has brought the excitement level back to Florida pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And that was going to be a job in and of itself. Now, there always comes some hope with a new staff, Hacker, but there was a lot of trepidation going to your point of hiring another low-level coach, and can he be successful? And we'll have to wait to see that. But there's really nothing to complain about so far since John Summerall's been hired. I mean, he won the opening press conference, but a lot of coaches do that. All right, so who's he going to hire? And as you said, hired a great staff. And probably the most important thing is the retainment part and the recruiting part. And of course, recruiting is the lifeblood. I still think it means a whole lot, no matter the landscape of college football and the transfer portal and all that. I still think high school recruiting is the lifeblood, can be the lifeblood, especially when you're in the talent-rich state of Florida, especially when you play in the SEC. I still think this is the most consistent way to get it done, especially at Florida. So I think you've laid the groundwork there. I've mentioned this bump class goes a long way. History shows that. It's a little different now with the transfer portal, but I still think there's a lot of value in this bump class. And results on the field usually don't play into how good a bump class can be. So it's a great start there. They got to keep up this momentum. We'll see what the summer holds as all these official visits come up. But it's been rave reviews, for a lot of recruits right now. And it does scream that, hey, maybe if those wins do come along, this is that monster John Summerall is talking about that it's time to get back to. Well, he's laying the groundwork for that.
Quickly, I want to ask you about Gators Breakdown. I haven't talked to you since Tommy Houck announced he's coming back. I mean, boy, what a couple of weeks it's been for you and for all of us that cover Florida athletics.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, Heck, I think they kind of builds on each other, too. In spring football and all the excitement around John Summerall that we just talked about. Then you get all the great basketball news as well. Baseball team even kind of turning around here late in the season as well. But going back to the hardwood, I mean, it was such a big get. And to me, it puts Florida certainly, if not the team to beat, one of the teams to beat in college basketball. They were kind of that anyway. But with Houck returning, I mean, it kind of just cements Florida in the national conversation once the season starts. A lot of people had questions. How would they replace a lot of talent they lost last year? Well, so much comes back this year, and Florida should certainly be a top 3 team, probably the top team when it all comes down to it. So certainly, Hacker, an exciting time, and we'll see if Todd Golden can put the team together again and make another deep run. But certainly seems like they can. They have the right guy in place there to get this thing. I mean, eventually it may end up in the NBA. We'll see. I think Florida fans should enjoy what they're getting from Todd Golden right now as much as they can.
David, tell us about the Gators Breakdown podcast. I know you guys recently had John Summerall on.
Yeah, for sure. Making the rounds in Jacksonville, so got a one-on-one with him, Hacker, and that's a fun conversation there. We hit on a lot of this excitement that we talked about, and then, of course, my co-host Will Miles. He stopped the Read and Reaction website, but still putting out the Read and Reaction magazine. It's about 70 pages fully dedicated to the Florida Gators. It's under the Gators Breakdown umbrella now, so certainly glad that we can still put that out there for a lot of Gator fans to get there. That'll be released next week, so we're announcing it this week, and should be to build in the excitement of the John Summerall era. The Read Reaction Preview magazine is certainly going to be a deep dive into what we can expect in this 2026 season.
David Waters, the host of the Gators Breakdown podcast. David, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time, and we'll talk again soon, pal.
Thank you much, Hacker.
Streaming live from the XL Digital Studios, polished by Harbor Dental Care, the locally owned smile restoration experts. This is the place Jags fans turn to every day for news, analysis, and inside stuff. 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
This is Jeff Middlecoff with Cogent Bank. My associate Ryan Salem and I joined Cogent Bank because we wanted to revolutionize the mortgage business, just like Cogent Bank has revolutionized the banking business. So Ryan Salem and I are able to leverage the power and stability of Cogent Bank to go out and find our clients the best investors, the best products, and the best rates in the entire country for your particular mortgage loan. Of course, you don't have to be a customer at Cogent Bank to take advantage of our mortgage services to buy or refinance your home. We offer jumbo loans, VA, FHA, conventional and investment loans. At Cogent Bank, we offer mortgages nationwide, so we can help you with a second home or help a family member who lives or is moving to another state. Call Ryan Salem or myself, Jeff Middlecoff, at Cogent Bank today, 904-442-9191, to see how we can help you with any of your mortgage loan needs, whatever or wherever they may be.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, Cogent Bank, NMLS ID 402296, Ryan Salem, NMLS ID 1182429, Jeff Middlecoff, NMLS ID 249086.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, Jason, thanks for fixing my air conditioner last week. It's way nicer at my place now.
Glad we could help. Good to know it was just a small repair.
I know. A new air conditioner can be pretty expensive.
I mean, they do keep your whole house nice. That's a lot of space to keep cool.
I know.
And they do it all summer long, even when the weather is totally Jacksonville temperature outside.
I know.
Luckily, if you ever do need a new AC, we can arrange a financing plan that'll make it easy for you to handle.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Here, put on these sunglasses.
Whoa. They can show banking information? Cool glasses.
Short term, long term, low interest, zero down payment. There's all kinds of options for bigger projects or even repairs as low as $500.
I wish I had these math sunglasses in high school.
You and me both, pal.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
What if your next fun day out costs just $70 to play all day? That's exactly what you get at the Battalion Airsoft Arena, the only indoor airsoft battlefield in Jax. Skip the same old boring entertainment choices and step into real action with your crew. Perfect for birthdays, company team building, graduation parties, or just epic weekend fun. No experience, no problem. The Battalion package includes everything: gun, mask, and ammo with unlimited play. So lock in your mission now at BattalionAirsoftArena.com.
Baseball is back. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball at the newly renovated ViStar Ballpark is your home for affordable family fun. Tickets start at just $5. Fireworks after every Friday home game and kids around the bases after Sunday games. Log on to jackshrimp.com for tickets and details. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball. Affordable family fun.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker, After Dark, on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Glad you're with us. 1010XL and 92.5 FM. We will continue our tour around the AFC South. We're just checking in on, the Titans, the Texans, and the Colts in the summer months leading into OTAs. Well, actually, when I get back from vacation at the beginning of June, we will kick off our division previews. We will go one division per week beginning the first week of June. We usually start with the AFC East, and we'll go through every team, have somebody in every city, one division per week for 8 weeks leading into Jaguar training camp at the end of July. So this is a little appetizer, a little precursor for that. We were in Nashville last night with the Titans. We'll go to Houston later in the week with the Texans. Tonight, it's all about the Indianapolis Colts. Derek Schultz is the host of the Locked On Colts podcast. He will join me coming up here in less than 20 minutes as we will talk about Indianapolis's offseason, how healthy is Daniel Jones, the decision to trade Michael Pittman and Zaire Franklin and to let guys like Kenny Moore and Braden Smith and Kwity Paye walk. They did pay Alec Pierce a ton of money. I personally have hated Indianapolis's offseason. Maybe Derek Schultz can sway me. We'll talk about it in about 20 minutes. NBA playoffs going on tonight. Critical Game 5 in the Eastern Conference semifinals. The New York Knicks are awaiting the winner of Cleveland and Detroit. The home team in this series is 4-0 so far. Detroit is at home tonight in Game 5. They lead Cleveland 34-30 with about 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. Quickly in the National Hockey League, Game 5, Colorado and Minnesota. Colorado can advance to the Western Conference Finals with a win tonight, but it is not going well. Minnesota up 3-0 in Colorado, still in the first period, as they're looking to force a Game 6 back in Minnesota. And by the way, it's worth noting, too, we don't talk a ton of baseball, but the Tampa Bay Rays in the bottom of the 7th in Toronto, they have a 1-0 lead on the Blue Jays. Do you realize that we are past the quarter pole of the Major League Baseball season? Most teams are at the 42, 43 game mark. So we're kind of getting into this thing a little bit. We're 25% of the way home in the Major League Baseball regular season. There is not a team in the American League that has a better record than the Tampa Bay Rays. Isn't that wild? Not a team in the American League that has a better record than the Tampa Bay Rays. And in fact, the Atlanta Braves are one game in the win column better for the best record in Major League Baseball. Tampa Bay comes into tonight 28-13 on the year. That is by far and away the best record in the American League. They are 4 losses in front of the next best, which is the New York Yankees, who are 27-17. The Yankees have actually played 3 more games than Tampa. Tampa had 41 games played. The Yankees have already played 44. But yeah, who had the Rays as the best record in the American League at the quarter pole? Yet that's where we are. They are playing some terrific baseball. They are leading Toronto tonight, bottom of the 7th, 1-0. We will keep you updated. Coming up next, more on the National Football League. There were a lot of interesting stories that came out. Some schedule stuff is already being leaked. We'll get into that. A couple of things have already been leaked. Obviously, the schedule comes out in its entirety tomorrow night, right as we go on the air, as a matter of fact, at 8 o'clock. So we're going to do kind of a schedule release show here on Hacker After Dark, but some things are being leaked out we'll get to. And just within the last couple of hours, we saw Breece Hall in New York get a pretty good contract. There is another running back in the National Football League that just got paid tonight. We'll tell you who that is next, right here on Hacker After Dark.
This Friday marks the debut.
Introducing The Lead with Hayes Carline and Ryan O'Halloran.
New conversations, new perspective.
4 to 6 on 1010XL.
Ready to join the team? The Jaguars and our stadium partners are hosting a job fair Wednesday, May 20th. We're looking for enthusiastic new faces to serve as ushers, ticket takers, concessionaires, security, and more. Stop by the Prime Osborne Convention Center and apply on May 20th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Professional dress, a pen, and a smile are all you need. There are 1,000 spots to be filled for the 2026 season, so join us and be a part of the Jaguars game day team.
All right, here we go. Jacksonville summer's around the corner, and the heat is bringing the pressure early. Your AC takes the field. It's trying to hold up. But wait, warm air, weak airflow. The system's in trouble. Time to make the call. Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. Experienced AC techs, honest pricing, and they'll get it done right the first time. And here's the play right now. Take $500 off the total price of a new AC system during the Memorial Day promotion. That's how you stay cool and win the day. When you're stuck, call the Duck. 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Every time your team makes a move,
this kid could be the game breaker we're looking for.
1010XL will break it down.
We're professionals. We have a job to do, a season to plan.
Follow the road to the regular season with AA Automotive and 1010XL.
Mike Dempsey. If you're thinking about a bathroom upgrade, maybe turning that old tub into a safer walk-in shower, check out 5 Star Bath Solutions. I shopped around, talked to several companies, and I chose 5 Star because their customer service was simply incredible. Responsive, honest, upfront about the entire project, and their pricing was even better than expected. When you're ready for a fresh look, better comfort, and a bathroom space you'll love using every day, schedule your free consultation at 5starbathsolutions.com and get the 5-star experience.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein & Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein & Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein & Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
I'm never going to be confused for a music guy, but if I have a Mount Rushmore of songs, In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins is probably on the list. This is one of the 4. If I could listen to 4 songs for the remainder of my life, Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight would probably make the cut for one of those 4. Back here on Hacker After Dark, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. I gave my feelings on the Jaguars having to play Houston in London earlier. If you missed that, I'll give you a brief synopsis. I think it's crap. That's basically what I said for upwards of 20 minutes. This was considerably shorter, but if you want my feelings on it again, I think it's complete and total crap that the Jaguars have to play Houston in London as opposed to playing a Tennessee in London. The NFL took the Jaguars' most important home game and moved it to Wembley Stadium. And I think that is crap, and there is no way, no how, no logical explanation you can give to me why that could not have been Tennessee, who does not play an international game, and you put Houston here in Jacksonville. You already took Philadelphia, fine. Why that can't be the Titans instead of the Texans? Again, there is not a good enough explanation to tell me. The NFL, to me, did the Jaguars a disservice by moving the Houston game to London. The NFL did announce the other international games. Get a load of this. I think at some point in the near future, the NFL is going to have 16 international games a year, and I think every team will play one international game per season. I really believe that. When they move to an 18-game regular season, mark my words, man. And I'm not the only one. I'm not breaking any news here. It's a common thought, I think. I think every team is going to play one international game per year. That's the direction we're headed. But in 2026, the NFL announced today 9 international games spread across 4 continents. That's crazy, right? 4 continents, 7 countries, and 8 different stadiums. Wow. All right, we know Jacksonville plays Philadelphia, and they play Houston in London. Your other international games, 49ers and the Rams in Melbourne, Australia, week 1. Week 3, Ravens, Cowboys in Brazil. Week 4, Colts, Commanders in London. We talked about the 2 Jaguar games. Week 7, Steelers and the Saints in France. Week 9, Bengals and Falcons in Madrid. And Week 10, Patriots, Lions in Germany. So you're going Europe, you're going South America, you're going Australia, and I guess they're counting the United States as the 4th continent. That makes sense. So yeah, you have 4 continents. United States meaning North America, obviously. I do have a Wolfson High School education, but I meant North America. So North America, South America, Europe, and Australia are the 4 continents that are hosting 9 different international games. Again, those international games are consisting of 7 different countries and 8 different stadiums. And I believe it is only a matter of time until every NFL team will play at least 1 international game per year. I talked about a running back getting paid tonight. How about Devon Achane from Miami? 4 years, $68 million for Achane. Now, good that the young man got paid, and he's a terrific player.
Too steep?
No, I don't even know if it's too steep, but you look at Miami, they're going to be horrible this year. Tyreek Hill gone, Jalen Waddle gone, Tua, whatever, but he's gone. I mean, it's a rebuild. Yet they paid Malik Willis decent money, and now they pay Achane decent money. Achane's the only guy left of any resemblance of what Miami had for the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm happy that the young man got paid, but good grief. If you're playing the Dolphins, you're just going to focus on Achane, and I'm not sure how productive he's going to be because he doesn't have a whole lot of help at the skill positions. I did mention a couple of things about the schedule being leaked. Full schedule gets released tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, but I think we have a little bit of clarity. So week 1, 49ers and the Rams are going to play in Melbourne, Australia. I believe that's a Thursday night. So the NFL season's going to start on Wednesday, which is weird because they want the Super Bowl champion to play on Wednesday to lead off the year. So we know it's the Seattle Seahawks. Rumor has it their opponent traveling out of Seattle for the opener is a rematch of the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots. We talk about pouring salt into the wound for Patriots Nation. You lost to these guys in the Super Bowl, but now you got to travel out to their stadium opening night and see them raise the banner they earned by beating you in the Super Bowl. You got to watch that on opening night in their stadium in front of the 12th man. Yikes, that is brutal. I don't know how many times we've had a Super Bowl rematch as the opening game of the following season. That couldn't have possibly happened too many times. I think Chicago travels out of Seattle. I think Bears-Seahawks would have been a great opener. But the NFL apparently wants the Super Bowl rematch on opening night the following year, as it does look like it will be Patriots-Seahawks to kick it all off. I believe that's scheduled for Wednesday night, September the 9th. More on the National Football League as we continue our tour of the AFC South. Last night, we were in Nashville talking about the Titans offseason. Later in the week, we will go to Houston talking about the Texans offseason. Tonight, it's all about the Indianapolis Colts. My buddy Derek Schultz is the host of the Locked On Colts podcast, and he joins me next. I personally have really, really not liked what the Colts have done this offseason. Can Derek Schultz sway me? Let's talk Daniel Jones. Let's talk Alec Pierce. Let's talk Anthony Richardson's future. And let's talk about the guys they lost, from Kenny Moore to Michael Pittman Jr. to Kwity Paye, Zaire Franklin, Braden Smith. They lost a lot. How are the Colts feeling heading into OTAs and veteran minicamp? Derek Schultz of Locked On Colts next here on Hacker After Dark.
Red, 10-10,
180.
Duval. Let's go, Googans. Blue, 92.5.
Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Hacker here for the best weight loss program I've ever been on. No shots, no needles, no medication, no appetite suppressants. It's coaching. It's knowledge. And by the way, the food tastes absolutely tremendous. I'm in the maintenance program right now. I still pound the Awaken 180 shakes, the soups. They have sloppy joes. They have vegetable chili. They have pancakes. You name it, Awaken 180 has it. You lose weight, you get healthier while eating terrific food in the process. I lost over 100 pounds on Awaken 180, and I tried a lot of other programs. You guys probably remember some of them in years past. None of them worked. Awaken 180, down over 100 pounds. Guys, do what I did. If it's time for you to drop the weight, go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com, or call 844-346-1800. If it's time for you to get healthier, if it's time, do what I did and get involved with the great folks of Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Rick Ballou for Coy Dental. That's right, Carlson Dental is now Coy Dental. Dr. Lee has been practicing there for 9 years, has purchased the company. The Coy Dental team still has the same great dentists and staff. And remember, if you get nervous visiting a dentist, don't. There's never a problem at Coy Dental. With light sedation for cleaning, then deep sedation for all your restorative needs. Coy Dental, located in Bartram Park.
Looking for a real career with great pay and full benefits? Prosser here for Julington Creek Pest Control. As a growing, family-owned company that cares about its employees, they're hiring lawn technicians in the Jacksonville area. No experience required. This is a salaried position with top industry pay. Full benefits, a 401k match, and paid training. Apply today at JulingtonCreekPestControl.com. Julington Creek Pest Control. Our family serving yours since 1984.
Equal opportunity employer.
Home of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia from Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, his adorable chessman sidekick.
There are two things you want to ask when getting a custom polymer garage floor coating. Will it be done right, and will it be priced right?
And just how charming is their mascot?
No. At Checkmate, our small specialized install teams follow a strict 29-point installation checklist
to ensure the highest quality results at a price you can afford.
A Checkmate polyaspartic floor can be customized in dozens of colors and sweeps up sparkling clean in just seconds.
No need to wear your shoes in the garage to avoid tracking dirt back into the house.
The quality you expect?
Check. A price that might surprise you.
Check. A floor you just can't wait to show your friends? Checkmate!
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit CheckmateCoatings.com. That's CheckmateCoatings.com.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like customer service associate at a dry cleaning shop.
Yeah, hi. I'm here to pick up my suit.
Ah, yes. Here you go.
There must be a mistake. This is too small.
It shrunk a whole lot. Look on the bright side. Now you have a suit you can give to a child.
This is a job for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick. We're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice!
It's showtime!
That's right! The whole world loves Beetlejuice! It's a rowdy, rambunctious, rollicking good time! And a big, fantastical funhouse! We're raising the bar and occasionally the dead! You've never seen anything quite like Beetlejuice! May 12th through the 17th, Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets on sale at fscjartistseries.org.
Spring is here. Is your yard ready? Lucas Tree Service, a family-owned business with over 45 years of experience, is Jacksonville's certified arborist for safe tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for homes and businesses. Protect your property, boost your curb appeal, and enjoy expert service you can trust. Keep your trees healthy and safe before summer arrives. Schedule your inspection today at lucastreeservice.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us with free agency mostly in the rearview mirror, with the draft now in the rearview mirror. I thought we would take a moment to look around the rest of the AFC South as we get ready for OTAs here in the month of May. We've already made a stop in Nashville. We will go to Houston later in the week, but tonight it's all about the Indianapolis Colts. What has been an interesting offseason, some money spent, some trading players away. How do the Colts look heading into 2026? Our guy up in Indianapolis is Derek Schultz. He's with the Locked On Colts podcast, and Derek's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Derek, it's been a while, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Always great to hop on with you, Hack. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Derek, we always appreciate it, man. All right, Colts off season. Boy, some interesting situations, from the re-signings of Pierce and Jones, the trading away of Zaire Franklin, Michael Pittman Jr. We'll kind of talk about those individually, but from a mile-high view, Derek, how would you assess the Colts off season to this point?
I'd say it's a bit of a changing of the guard, outside of changing the general manager, head coach, and quarterback. None of those things they ended up doing. They really did change the top of the core of this team. When you think about the Colts of the last 7-8 years, probably the 2020s Colts, if you will, you probably think of Michael Pittman Jr. and Zaire Franklin and Kenny Moore, and now all three of those guys are gone. So while there was a theme of retainment when it comes to Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce and some of the guys that you mentioned, and of course no changes as far as the brain trust is concerned, there were a lot of changes this offseason for the first time in a long time for the Colts. And I think ultimately that could be a good thing, changing out some of the voices. That core of players contributed to 1 playoff win and 2 playoff appearances. If you go back to the 2018 season, which was the Andrew Luck era, still the very last of that year. But I think change is good in a lot of ways. I mean, this is a team that's been, as you guys know, stuck in the middle, 8-9, 9-8. They've been perfectly average the last couple of years, and they're looking to kind of break out of that mire of mediocrity, and I think this was the first step towards doing that.
Derek Schultz, the host of the Locked On Colts podcast, with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. All right, Daniel Jones. We remember December 7th very well. That was the date that Daniel Jones blew out the Achilles here in Jacksonville. We're 5 months removed from that. The season obviously starts basically 4 months from now. Is the expectation that Daniel Jones will be ready on opening day?
The Colts have remained confident that everything is going well in his rehab process, and they are hopeful and optimistic, but they have not committed necessarily to that sort of a timetable. We're still talking about 4 months from now. So there are certain things that could change and that could happen. But I will say this, Hack, I mean, it's not like they've scrambled to make any sort of move to back themselves up, if you will, if Jones isn't available. I mean, it's the same 2 quarterbacks from last season. Riley Leonard, who, of course, finished the season following that little fun run, if you want to call it that, with 48-year-old or however old he is, Phillip Rivers. And then Anthony Richardson, who is just, kind of like the house guest that you want to go away, that is just sort of lingering. I don't think Richardson necessarily wants to be there. I don't think the Colts necessarily, specifically Shane Steichen, really wants him there, but he's there because they've not been able to find a trade partner. So because of the lack of moves that they've made at quarterback, I would go ahead and assume that I think justifies where the Colts are, at least publicly, with what they've said about Daniel Jones's rehab. But they know it's a big risk. And Achilles is not a knee, and Achilles is not a shoulder. It is a unique injury, and some guys are never the same, or even if they come back to being the same, it takes them a very long time to get back to that. So it's a big risk for the Colts to invest what they have had in Jones and really just invest in the fact that the first 8 weeks or 9 weeks of last season was not a mirage. I mean, bringing back Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, that has something to do with that as well. I mean, the Colts are adamant that the real Colts were the September and October Colts and not the November, December, January Colts. And that's a risk. They're rolling the dice for sure.
Derek, you mentioned Anthony Richardson. We'll have you back on in late July when we do our official division previews. When we have you back on 2.5 months from now, will Anthony Richardson still be an Indianapolis Colt?
Yeah, I think at this point, if you would have asked me that 3 weeks ago, I would have said definitively no. But I think at this point, yes. I think they are going to end up keeping him into camp, seeing if there's some sort of a quarterback injury somewhere else, and then, allowing a trade partner to pop into the mix that is not currently in the mix. It's just a tough situation all around. It's tough for Anthony, too. I don't think, as much as he has fallen short in a lot of areas, I don't think that the Colts have always put him in the best position to succeed. He's in the lineup, he's out of the lineup, he's in the lineup. And some of that is injury related, of course. But, here's a guy that's essentially been benched twice because he was benched in the middle of his second year for Joe Flacco. And then he was essentially re-benched last year before the season started. I mean, Anthony Richardson was the incumbent starter. Everybody was under the assumption that Anthony Richardson was QB1 heading into 2025, and he lost that job to Daniel Jones and had the eye injury and all of that, but never seemed to get it back. The Colts seem to have been firm in moving on from him. I don't think Shane Steichen is interested in ever putting him on the field in a game that counts and playing meaningful snaps ever again. But they have been good, and Chris Ballard and his regime has been good about helping their players, even if they don't have a utility with the Colts anymore, find homes where they could succeed. He took 50 cents on the dollar for Michael Pittman Jr. because he knew Pittman Jr. wanted to go to Pittsburgh, just kind of as an example there. So I do think that they'll facilitate and try to help Anthony find a home where he can get a second chance. But I can't imagine a scenario where there is a rebirth for a quarterback that's been benched twice. I think it's all over for him here in Indy.
Couple of more for Derek Schultz, the host of the Locked On Colts podcast, as our tour of the AFC South this week continues. Derek, you mentioned Michael Pittman to Pittsburgh because they kept Alec Pierce and gave him $29 million per. Is that received well in Indianapolis? What's been the thought up there about those two decisions?
It has been, because I think people are on board with the fact that there's even more room for improvement and room for growth for Alec Pierce. With higher usage, I mean, you're talking about a guy that has a fraction of the targets that most number ones have, but he's been a lot more than just a home run hitter for the Colts. He's shown himself as a better route runner, a better possession guy. He's great at high pointing the ball. I mean, Alec Pierce has a lot of tools in his bag, and I think the Colts believe he can grow into a wide receiver one, which is a role that Michael Pittman Jr. never really quite grew into. He was a productive player, but he was more firmly a two. The problem is, Hack, is that they didn't replace Michael Pittman Jr. Unlike some of these other players that they lost, like Zaire Franklin, and they used the second-round pick on C.J. Allen out of Georgia, there is no replacement yet, at least for Pittman Jr. So they've got Pierce. They've got Josh Downs, who's a holdover, of course. They've got Ashton Dulin, who's been there forever, who's been more of a special teams utility gunner / receiver when needed type guy. But they're now suddenly very thin at wide receiver with this investment that they made in Alec Pierce. So I think that is something to keep an eye on. If there's an injury or something like that, then the Colts will be reaching down into a bag where they just don't have a lot at that spot.
At the top, you mentioned a changing of the guard, and from an outside point of view, I totally agree. Zaire Franklin, Kwity Paye, Braden Smith, Kenny Moore, Mike Pittman Jr., all gone. All of those guys, at least most of them, were fixtures in Indianapolis for quite some time. What has been the reaction to so much roster turnover?
I think fans are mostly in favor of it because as popular as those guys were, Zaire Franklin was quite a polarizing player. He had a podcast and sometimes had to insert foot into mouth, which, fans don't always love that. But I think for the most part, that group, especially Moore and Pittman Jr., were very popular. But at the same time, people here want to win. And it's just been a long time since the Colts have won anything of meaning. I mean, the last time that they made a deep playoff run was 2014 with the Flakegate, if you can even remember back that far. I mean, we're talking 12 years ago. And this is a fan base that largely grew up in the Peyton Manning era where the Colts rolled out of bed every year and won 12, 13 games, easily took on the division. And, it was call me in January when they're playing New England or Pittsburgh or whoever else. And the Colts are very far removed from that now. So I think they're willing to do whatever it takes to win. I think the regime knows, especially with the new leadership, with Jim Irsay's passing, it has officially gone to the daughters. Mainly Carly Irsay-Gordon is running point on that, but they have expectations about what this franchise should be and where it should be. And hard to believe, but it's year 10 for Chris Ballard, and you're talking about a GM that has won one playoff game and has missed the playoffs the last 5 seasons. I can venture a guess that there aren't a lot of NFL general managers who would have retained their job under those circumstances. So I think there's a sense of urgency with the fan base. I think there's a sense of urgency with everybody involved. And again, Hack, they're betting big that the team you saw the first half last year was the real Colts. But there's still a lot to play out here for that to be reality, notably the quarterback and Daniel Jones coming back healthy from the Achilles.
And we certainly remember the trade for Sauce Gardner, so the Colts did not have a first-rounder this year, nor do they have one next year. But even despite that, Derek, it looks like the Colts had a pretty good draft, right? You mentioned C.J. Allen, a couple other guys as well. How would you assess the draft class?
Yeah, good, especially considering that with them trading down from 47, they didn't have a top 50 pick. So they ended up getting, I think, 2 immediate starters, and not only Allen at Mike linebacker to replace Zaire Franklin, but also A.J. Halsey at second safety in the strong spot. So anytime you can add 2 starters, I think that's a good thing. I think they got some good value when it comes to their picks. It was defensive heavy. And they took some flyers on some guys late in the draft, a couple of edges. George Gumbs Jr., who played at Florida, of course, who I think has some upside and is worth a longer look if he has some elite traits, if he can kind of put all of that together and develop a little bit more. I know they really like Deion Burks, the former Purdue and Oklahoma receiver, who they got in the 7th round, who's undersized but has elite level speed and wowed some folks at the combine with some of those times and the data that he produced in Indy. But overall, for not having a first-round pick and not having a top 50 pick, I think value-wise they did about as well as they could. But, it's a draft that they're going to have to hit on here because Chris Ballard really, you go back and look at the 2023 class especially, it was a lot of swings and misses in there, and they need to start connecting and rebuilding the core of this team.
Gator fans love George Gumbs. He's the young man that planted the flag for Florida at the 50-yard line at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee when they beat Florida State a couple of years ago. So that kind of cemented him with Gator fans after doing that to the rival. Final moments, Derek Schultz, Locked On Colts podcast. I'm asking everybody this week, outside of your team, the rest of the AFC South, Derek, what are your thoughts on Tennessee, Houston, and Jacksonville entering the year?
Yeah, the concern for me with Houston is what's C.J. Stroud going to be? Because I think we rushed, all of us did this, we rushed to crown him as the next big thing, and it looks like he's regressed a little bit. So the defense is unbelievable, and it's elite, and I think they have a terrific coaching staff. I think Houston, pound for pound, is easily the best team in the division. But I think that, quarterback, which you weren't expecting to be a question mark, I think it's a question mark because is he just a middle of the road guy or is he somebody that can really be a franchise guy? And if he is, God, watch out because the young talent that they have on the other side of the ball is special. I think Tennessee is perpetually a year away from being a year away. That's the one team that the Colts have kind of retained ownership of over the years. And, we'll see. That's what I always say with Tennessee. And Jacksonville, to me, is just a little bit of an enigma. I think in a lot of ways they are somewhat similar to the Colts in that they are, they've reached a level where they're competitive and they flash, right? It's about consistently flashing and finding ways to navigate the valleys while making the peaks more consistent. And so I'm confident they're going to be another good team this year. I still think the Colts look like the 3rd best team in that division. I think they're closer to Jacksonville than they are to Houston, but that's where it looks to me just kind of, 100,000-foot view right now.
Derek, final question. Give us 60 seconds being up there in Indianapolis. Boy, a lot was made of the Pacers kind of gambling with that pick for the Zubats trade, and they end up number 5, which means that pick goes to the Clippers. What's been the reaction?
Anger. It just sucks. Pacers have never had the number 1 pick. They have never had the number 1 pick on their roster. They're the only NBA team in history that can say that. They've had the number 2 pick a handful of times. And it makes it feel like last season was all for naught. Pacers very rarely are bad. They've been good at being pretty good to good for basically all of their NBA history. And they were truly terrible this year, and they got nothing to show for it. They love Zubats, though. They think he fits like a glove in this offense and will fit like a glove with Tyrese Halliburton. They desperately needed a starter at center. So it was a risk. It blew up in their face a little bit. But you know what? If Zubats is close to an all-league center, which he was when he was in Los Angeles, and the Pacers get back into title contention again, then the trade's going to end up being worth it. They weren't going to use Darius Acuff or anybody that they were going to get at 5 anyway. That would have been a long-term play. But it does stink because you were thinking, man, you can add AJ Devonta with this group. You can add Darren Peterson with this group. You can take a flyer on Caleb Wilson and just let him cook in the oven a little bit more. Pacers lose all that upside, unfortunately, because the ping pong balls just didn't bounce their way.
Derek Schultz, one of our guys up in Indianapolis. You hear him and see him with the Locked On Colts podcast. Derek, I know you're busy. Thank you as always. We'll do it again, division preview time in late July.
For you, my man, anytime. Thanks.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created 1010XL.
A world
I've been waiting for you.
where anything is possible.
1010XL.
Welcome to Key Buick GMC, proudly family-owned and operated since 1943. Come see why they're North Florida's new and pre-owned truck center, conveniently located on Southside and JTB, just minutes from the St. John's Town Center. At Key Buick GMC, every new vehicle comes with our lifetime powertrain warranty. Key Buick GMC, we are professional grade. Online at keybuickgmc.com. Lifetime powertrain warranty covers engine, transmission, drivetrain only. Exclusions apply. See dealer for details.
Parents, now's the time to sign up your kids for the best all-sports camp in the 904. Tommy Houlihan's all-sports camp at St. Paul's Gym in Jacksonville Beach. All sports camps ages are kindergarten through 6th grade. All day, Monday through Friday, with extended hours also available. Keep your kids active this summer with Tommy Houlihan Sports Camp in Jacksonville Beach. Online at TommyHoulihanBasketball.com. Tommy, Hulihan basketball.com.
Don't miss the Bari Breakdown with Dr. George Bari on XL Primetime, Wednesdays around 1:35 for the latest in sports injuries from all the big names in the game. Who's MIA, who's coming back? Dr. George Bari on XL Primetime, Wednesdays at 1:35 on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Jeff Prosser here. When you need new windows or doors, you want high-end quality without the middleman markup, and that's why I'm telling you about Cash Building Material. Same premium materials, same beautiful finishes, but at a price that actually makes sense for your home. No subcontractors, no runaround, just their own experienced crews who treat your house like it's theirs. If you want it done right, the first time, get a quote today. Thank me tomorrow. For windows and doors, search Cash Building Material. Windows and doors done right.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Yeah, the golden moment tonight on Hacker After Dark. I'll make it short and sweet. It is absolute garbage that the Jaguars have to play the Texans at Wembley Stadium in London. That it's garbage. It's ridiculous. You take the most important home game of the year and you put it in London. The NFL did the Jaguars a disservice. Tennessee does not play an international game. It could have very, very easily been the Titans. You already moved Philadelphia over there the week prior. We knew we were going to lose 2 home games. You take Philadelphia, fine. You take Houston too. garbage. When Tennessee doesn't have an international game, again, there is not a good reason or excuse that the NFL did that. The Jaguars got the business from the National Football League today. Garrett Podell, CBSSports.com. Let's talk Jags. Let's talk Jags roster. Let's talk AFC South. Garrett Podell of CBS next here on Hacker After Dark.
Get a Gator baseball chomp on 1010XL.
The Gators spend most of the regular season in the top 25 and wrap it up with a big weekend in the Bayou. Florida LSU, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday afternoon on 1010 AM.
Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice!
It's showtime. That's right. The whole world loves Beetlejuice. It's a rowdy, rambunctious, rollicking good time and a big, fantastical funhouse. We're raising the bar and occasionally the dead. You've never seen anything quite like Beetlejuice. May 12th through the 17th, Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets on sale at fscjartistseries.org.
Hey, Gate fans, power up your meal with an electrifying deal. My Gate Rewards members can snag a Monster Energy for just $1 when you buy any made-to-order entree. Breakfast bowl or pizza, it's your choice. Just add a Monster and boost your day. See store for details.
Hey, Hicken here, and oh man, TopDressing.com came and hit my lawn with that deep aeration. I got to see their truck. Ooh, is that cool? It's like a transformer. Aerators rolling right off it. They punched the yard. They dropped their proprietary mix and cleaned up like they were never there. Next step, rich, green St. Augustine grass. If your lawn needs a real turnaround, call TopDressing.com today for your free estimate. They'll make your grass look like a golf course for real. Call today and top dress your lawn like the pros with TopDressing.com.
Memorial Day weekend is almost here. Time for road trips, family, and honoring those who served. Before you hit the road, make sure your vehicle is ready. At Valvoline Instant Oil Change, there's no appointment needed. Just drive in, stay in your car, and in 15 minutes, you're back on the road. Fast, reliable service, backed by a 4.7-star national rating and named #1 Quick Lube for customer service by Forbes. Travel with confidence this Memorial Day. Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Quick, easy, and ready when you are.
Hicken here. See clearly with the Eye Associates and trusted optometrists Zachary Boskool and Alice LaFlamme. From comprehensive eye exams, dry eye care, glaucoma management, diabetic eye care, and more, Dr. Boskool and Dr. LaFlamme are dedicated to protecting your vision. Immediate availability at all 5 Jacksonville locations. Schedule today with Dr. Boskool and Dr. LaFlamme by calling the Eye Associates, formerly Bowden Eye Associates, Schneider Eye and Wellness Center, and Janet Betchkel, MD at 296-0098.
I'm Frank Frangie, and I can tell you as Walk-Off Charities has grown, we now manage a large athletic facility with numerous fields, including the Bregan Baseball Complex. To get around, we needed a good, reliable golf cart. I went straight to Dynamic Drives and Design in Jack's Beach. I met with Travis, told him exactly what our needs were. Would you believe before you knew it, the perfect cart was delivered to us at an incredible price? If you need a golf cart, Travis and his team are the go-to. Learn more about them at dynamicdrivesdesign.com.
The weather is heating up, and it's time to drop a line in the water. Gear up today at Green Acres Sporting Goods, Jacksonville's fishing headquarters. From Shimano and Penn Reels to Zoom baits and much more for saltwater and freshwater fishing. They've got everything you need to land the big one. And when your gear needs work, trust their expert rod and reel repair to keep you casting like new. Stop by Green Acres today or shop online at greenacresporting.com.
Alert! Alert! Termite swarms are active right now in Jacksonville, and once they get inside, damage can happen fast. Termites don't knock, they silently attack the structure of your home, leaving behind costly repairs and long-term headaches. Protect what you've worked hard for with the proven protection homeowners trust. Terminix with advanced termite treatment and prevention solutions. Visit Terminix.com and schedule your free termite inspection today.
Jacksonville, you voted, and Baker Glass came out on top. The Bold City Best Awards are all about locals choosing their favorites, and you picked them for Best Auto Glass and Best Glass and Mirror Service.
I'm back with Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC. home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, your home for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we are glad you are with us. Busy week, obviously, with the NFL schedule coming out Thursday night. Rookie minicamp is in the rearview mirror, and the Jaguars will be out on the field for the media portion of OTAs this offseason, beginning in just a week and a half. Let's talk about the Jaguars, how the roster looks heading into OTAs. Let's also look around the rest of the AFC South. Garrett Podell of CBSSports.com does a terrific job covering the National Football League, and Garrett's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Garrett, it's been a little while, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Enjoying the offseason, recharging after the draft, and so happy to talk football with you as we get into the offseason program action here a little bit.
Yeah, mini camp next month, and then training camp's a little over 2 months away, and we're going to start this thing all over again. Garrett, obviously a lot of conversation about the Jaguars draft a couple weeks ago. A mile-high view, your opinion on the Jaguar draft and what James Gladstone did.
Well, Ryan, I think you have to look at just the Jags offseason moves in totality. I mean, the draft class itself, I mean, they didn't have a first-round pick because they traded it to the Cleveland Browns a year ago to move up to select Travis Hunter, second overall in 2025. So didn't pick until round 2, and then they took, Texas A&M tight end Nate Borkature with their first pick of the draft. I mean, I think it was very much a safe down the middle draft. I don't know if tight end in round 2 really made sense as the first pick, given they let 2 of their top contributors from last year's AFC South Championship team, running back Travis Etienne and linebacker Devin Lloyd, just exit the building in free agency. But, they reinforced the trenches. Albert Regis, Texas A&M defensive tackle in the 3rd round. Manuel Pregnon, an all Big Ten interior offensive lineman in the 3rd round. I kind of like those picks, but I just think Jacksonville's offseason in totality, it's just a little puzzling. It just seemed like they lost more talent than they gained, which was just odd to see that kind of posture, because it seems like general manager James Gladstone's vision was kind of reset the salary cap and reshape the team in his image, which that would have made sense if Jacksonville was rebuilding, but they just won 13 games in the division and nearly advanced to round 2 this past season. So I don't really think his rebuild plan and kind of how that was executed this offseason really aligns with how well the team played on the field in 2025.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. And look, the talk down here, I mean, they drafted 10 guys. Now, granted, they didn't have a first-round pick, but they drafted 10 guys. None of those guys are going to start. I mean, that's where the roster is. All of those guys are depth pieces, including Borkature, who presumably will be the second tight end to, obviously, Brenton Strange. And I think Jacksonville will tell you they were never going to pay an off-ball linebacker $15 million plus per year, which is what Devin Lloyd got in Carolina. And when ETN got to $13 million a year in New Orleans, there was just no way that was going to happen either. So I think Jaguar fans have made their peace with it. They had a lot of dead money that Balky put on their cap that they wanted to eat this offseason as well. It will be interesting to see how they replace Lloyd. Let's get to how they replace ETN. Bashal Tutin, LaQuint Allen Jr., they did go out and bring in Chris Rodriguez out of Washington. Do you believe they have enough in that backfield for the season?
No, I don't. I mean, straight up, my answer is no. I mean, you look at what they have, you name the names. I mean, none of those guys have ever really done a whole lot at the NFL level. Bashal Tutin, he was the number 2 rusher on the team last year. Or, well, actually, in terms of carries, he was number 2. In terms of yards, he was number 3 behind Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. 307 yards, had 5 rushing touchdowns, but only 83 carries. So I guess that's a lot of projection from Jacksonville's end in terms of confidence for Tutin, a 4th-round pick in the 2025 draft. And then Allen, who you mentioned, just 23 carries, 94 yards, no touchdowns. I mean, and he was a 7th-round pick in last year's draft. So I get it. I mean, they're going bargain bin at the position, leaning on 6th and 7th-round picks. And Chris Rodriguez Jr., he's a capable NFL running back, but very much a rotational player in Washington. So I guess the hope is that one of those guys really emerges. But if you look on paper, I'd say no. It doesn't really look like they replaced someone in ETN who was an incredibly dynamic weapon for this team, both out of the backfield as a receiver and a rusher. I mean, he had a career high 13 touchdowns scored. That's going to be hard to replace. 3 seasons in 4 years with 1,000 yards rushing. I mean, it's just going to be very difficult, I think, to replace him.
Garrett Padot of CBSSports.com. Garrett, pretty quickly we're learning Liam Cohen and James Gladstone both go to the beat of their own drum, man. We saw Cohen and the chip on his shoulder he had last year at times, the motivation he used. Gladstone's obviously a different cat when you hear him talk and some of the things that he has to say. But all we can go on here in Jacksonville is their 1 year. And for that 1 year, they went from 4-13 to 13-4 in a division championship. And by the way, they did that without really anything from their top 3 draft picks of a year ago. Travis Hunter played 7 games, then got hurt. They never saw third-round pick Caleb Ransaw, who got hurt in the preseason. And also third-round pick last year, Wyatt Milam, got hurt, came back, but was never really a factor at the end of the year. So I think a lot of people here are intrigued that you get those 3 back, along with this draft class, to see what Jacksonville could do in year number 2 with Cohen and Gladstone at the helm.
Yeah, I mean, I think Liam Cohen deserves so much praise for the job he did last season in Jacksonville. I mean, he got Trevor Lawrence playing probably the best football of his career, franchise record, 38 total touchdowns. Lawrence led the NFL with 24 of those 38 touchdowns in the last 8 games of the season to finish on an 8-game winning streak to end the year. So, I mean, I thought that was incredibly impressive, especially when you factor in that Brian Thomas Jr., who emerged with a historic rookie season in 2024, really regressed across the board in 2025, which I thought was really peculiar because Cohen coming over from both working with the Rams and the Buccaneers, places with dynamic wide receivers. You know, he had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in Los Angeles when he was there. You know, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay when he was over there. I thought it was really odd that I guess Brian Thomas Jr. really didn't expand much upon his game beyond just being a deep threat that last year. And that didn't even matter. Jacksonville was still really great. So I think if Cohen can get Brian Thomas Jr. going, I think the offense could, from a passing perspective, be a lot more fun than it already was a year ago.
No, I agree. When you have BTJ, you mentioned Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, obviously Brenton Strange. People wonder why is Travis Hunter going to have defensive snaps re-upped. Well, look, there's only one football, and you got a lot of guys on offense, whereas on defense, you did lose Greg Newsome. You got Monteric Brown, Jarian Jones, and Jordan Lewis, but Hunter is probably needed more on the defensive side of the football. And that leads me to the overall roster. Like I said, the 10 guys they drafted, Garrett, are not going to be projected to start barring injury. It was a depth draft to fill in some holes, if you will. I know we've talked about the departures of Lloyd and ETN. The other 20 guys that started that Buffalo playoff game are still here. Plus you get Travis Hunter back. I don't know. I think people maybe here in Jacksonville are a little higher on the Jaguars coming into the year than some of the national folks are. What are your thoughts?
I think that's fair. I like Travis Hunter being more of a full-time corner, part-time wide receiver, just because, as a receiver in college at Colorado, he won a lot on athleticism, but I really felt like his route tree could have been a little more technically refined. But I think in the NFL, like, he is a starting caliber corner right away. So I think Jacksonville made the right call there with him in terms of making him a primarily defensive player. And yeah, I agree that probably there's certainly reason for optimism. I look at Brian Thomas Jr., who I was talking to somebody, and I've heard that BTJ is working with former Cincinnati Bengals Pro Bowl wide receiver AJ Green this offseason out in Atlanta to really get right as a wide receiver. And so, AJ Green is one of the most underrated wide receivers of the 2010s, 7-time Pro Bowler in his first 7 seasons. So I think that hopefully, and, a second year acclimating to Liam Cohen's scheme could really help him kind of find more of his footing he had as a rookie. And yeah, I think defensively, earlier you said, you don't want to pay an off-ball linebacker. I thought Lloyd was really a great scheme fit for what defensive coordinator Anthony Campanile was running. But yeah, there's certainly reason for optimism as well. Like you said, filling in some gaps, and I guess just expecting more out of Trevor Lawrence, who already had the best year of his career, Brian Thomas Jr., and really getting a boost from Travis Hunter. So, I do understand the optimism, and they're definitely going to be one of the teams that I look from afar, just out of curiosity, because I feel like the coaching was so great. I don't know about the roster, but it'll be very interesting to see for sure, especially because I feel like the AFC South division as a whole, so many of the teams in the division did get a lot better.
Let's talk about the AFC South and the time we have left with Garrett Padell of CBSSports.com. Look, Tennessee had like $1 billion to spend, and they tried to spend all of it. I think they brought in literally like 20 free agents. That's going to go one of two ways, and I don't see a lot of middle ground there, Garrett. That's either going to be really good or really bad. We'll see. We've seen it both ways for other teams that have done such things. We'll get to Houston as we wrap up. I got to tell you, though, man, I hate what Indianapolis did this offseason. Trading Zaire Franklin, letting Braden Smith walk, losing Kwity Paye, trading Michael Pittman, giving Alec Pierce $29 million per, a guy that caught 47 passes last year. I mean, what's a quick thought from you on both the Colts and the Titans?
As for the Colts, since it seems like there's a little more passion there, I agree. I mean, I liked the re-signing of Alec Pierce. I don't know, like you said, the price point made sense, but he's led the league in yards per reception each of the last 2 years. I think that type of field spacing speed as a weapon makes sense to keep in the building. And I thought what Michael Pittman Jr. did for them as more of an underneath, over the middle, intermediate receiver is a little more easily replaced perhaps than maybe Pittman. I like the drafting of CJ Allen, but you're right. Like the Colts kind of really had a milquetoast offseason, and that's before even touching on the 2-year $88 million extension for Daniel Jones coming off an Achilles tear. The Colts, they're very interesting to me. And they're really leaning on it. We basically seen with Achilles, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers have it in recent years. They're older than Jones is now by a lot. However, it took them, both of them, pretty much to year 2 removed from that injury to really bounce back from that. So that'll be interesting to monitor. The Titans, like you said, they're going for the model that their former coach Mike Vrabel had in New England, which is spend a lot of money, plug all the holes, and go from bottom feeder to playoff team, and maybe make a push in what seems to be wide open AFC with Patrick Mahomes recovering from a torn ACL. So I liked for the most part what Tennessee did. I thought, maybe the spending for Wan'Dale Robinson, I thought that was a type of player they needed, was a little high, but I guess that's, that's free agency for you. I really did like their draft. I think Carnell Tate was probably the cleanest wide receiver prospect in this draft. Keldrick Falk, to me, very high athletic traits, needs a lot of refinement like that. Their first 3 picks, Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, I really liked those picks. And Nicholas Singleton, running back out of Penn State, he's somebody who had a lot of hype a couple years ago, kind of fell off at the end of his college career, but I liked him a lot as well. I liked it, really, their draft class as a whole. And then Houston, for them to get the best defensive tackle in the draft in McDonald out of Ohio State with the dominant defensive line they already had, whew, that is some scary stuff. And they got a legit runner in David Montgomery. And you mentioned Braden Smith leaving the Colts. He's now on the Texans, and Wyatt Teller coming over from Cleveland. I think Houston plugged their biggest holes. And as long as CJ Stroud, doesn't melt down like he did last postseason, I think they're entering the year the most dangerous team in the AFC South.
And let's wrap up there. We got about 60 seconds. How do you have the South 1-4 entering the summer months?
Entering the summer months, I'd probably say just the uncertainty with the Colts quarterback situation with Jones coming off the Achilles. I put them at 4. I would probably put I think it's a toss-up between Tennessee and Jacksonville for the 2 spot. I'm very curious to see how that plays out in the season. I'd have to put Houston at number 1, having just the dominance that they have on the defensive line really in their offensive line, which was the weakness for years, shored up. I really like what Houston did a lot, so I put them at number 1.
All right, we will see. Garrett Podell of CBSSports.com. Garrett's schedule comes out Thursday night. I know you guys will be all over it over there at CBS Sports.
Absolutely. We have so much content from all these wide-ranging angles. Check it out. You want to know all the best primetime games, best matchups, who's got the best schedule, hardest schedule. We got every angle covered for you. CBS Sports coming here this Thursday.
Garrett Podell of CBSSports.com. Garrett, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time. We'll do it again soon, man.
Yes, sir, Ryan. Always fun joining you. Happy to do it anytime.
And thank you to Garrett Podell of CBSSports.com for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. And look, I think as we get closer to training camp, the preseason, and certainly the regular season, and the more people that you talk to, I think the more it's going to come into focus just how much nationally people love the Houston Texans in the AFC South coming into 2026. Despite the fact that Jacksonville won the division last year, and despite the fact, to me, that Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I would gladly take Trevor Lawrence over C.J. Stroud right now with very little hesitation. The thought is that C.J. Stroud, despite how awful he was in the playoffs last year, is going to be able to recover, and that the Texans are clearly the team to beat. In fact, I heard Louis Riddick on ESPN earlier today say something along the lines of the Texans are going to run away with this division. Run away with it? Really? I'll tell you, I don't know if I agree with that, but what I don't like is the news we got earlier today that the Houston at Jacksonville game is not going to be played here in Jacksonville. It's going to be moved to London. So is Philadelphia, for that matter. Again, 2 games in London with the stadium renovations going on. Look, you want to move the Philadelphia game over there? I get it. Houston being moved over there? I don't get. That is a vitally important game. And the fact that Jacksonville gets a home game, quote unquote, but we all know it's obviously a neutral site, to play the Texans in a marquee AFC South game, I'm not a big fan of that one. So that's tough. The Jaguars have 17 games, 6 of which, only 6, will be played here in Jacksonville. When we found out today, Philadelphia and Houston are the 2 that are being moved. We will know the entirety of the Jaguars schedule and the rest of the NFL schedule tomorrow night, as the NFL will release it at 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Wednesday night edition here of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM, and we have a ton of people to thank. Again, thank you to Garrett Podell of CBSSports.com. Thank you to Derek Schultz, who is one of the hosts of the Locked On Colts podcast. Always enjoy the conversation with Derek. Look, Indianapolis is going to be interesting. They gave Daniel Jones a lot of money. Will he be healthy coming off that Achilles injury? They traded away the likes of Michael Pittman Jr., Zaire Franklin. They released Kenny Moore. They lost Braden Smith and Kwity Paye. Obviously, they re-signed Alec Pierce. There were a lot of moving parts with Indianapolis. I'm not a real big fan of some of the things that they did, but we'll ultimately see how it works out for them in the AFC South. And then back in hour number 1, my buddy David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Always enjoy talking Florida Gator athletics with David Waters as we talked Florida Gator recruiting, the job John Sumrall is doing right now, a little bit about Gator basketball as well. So as always, thank you to David Waters of the Gators Breakdown podcast. Now, tomorrow night, the NFL schedule gets released right as we're coming on the air at 8 o'clock. So a large majority of our show tomorrow evening will be reaction to the NFL schedule and particularly the Jacksonville Jaguar 2026 schedule, and we do hope that you join us then. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green, and again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night on a Thursday beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
I bring charm, smarts, and toughness.
We already have that covered.
But you can stay if you bring the snacks.
Helmets and Heels. Weekdays 2 to 4 on 1010XL.